What's up everybody, this is Ven, and I welcome you to another mock spotlight where we take apart what you build. This week, we'll be going over a creation named Arthur, created and posted on our message boards by member Ghosty through Spooky. Before we get started, let's go ahead and talk about my method of reviewing like how we always do, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the mock, the build of the mock itself, and the concept and ideas behind the mock's creation. All of these qualities will mount up to 5 points each for a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And so without further ado, let's take a look at this mock. So right off the bat, this mock looks very interesting. Not something I would ordinarily see for a BIONICLE mock. No, I can't even say it's a BIONICLE mock. It doesn't exclusively use BIONICLE parts. As we can see here, there's a mix of system in there, some system. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. If it's not BIONICLE, it's system. Anyway, what's actually interesting about this mock's appearance is not only the blend of system and BIONICLE, but just the way that it is utilized and how detailed this mock looks right off the bat. Just some brief background on what this mock is supposed to be. It's supposedly a bounty hunter that is just wearing a bunch of armor. So everything we see here is just a piece of armor that is coated onto a just normal human being. At least that's the idea behind it. I can kind of see the whole armored look, most definitely. And I really appreciate how, again, this mock has just a sheer amount of detail. And I like that this is achieved with the use of the system parts everywhere. As you can see on this part on his left shoulder, there are marks, scratches, what appears to be perhaps implied battle damage. That's a really neat detail you can get out of system there. Some other really interesting features in this mock's appearance are the sort of mini riot shield that is on his right forearm. I think that looks pretty neat. Also the chain that wraps around his torso, and I think this is probably my favorite part about this mock, the part around his waist, what looks to be his utility belt, where he has like a little pouch, he has a canteen for water, and then a butt pack for food. This bounty hunter is built, literally, for survival. And of course, 2 other features worth noting are his weapon, which appears to be some sort of shotgun pistol thing, not exactly sure. His helmet, which is very interestingly shaped and has this blue visor, which I think would have been nice if it was translucent, even though we probably wouldn't be able to see the dude's face because I'm not sure how you'd be able to do that with this kind of build. It still would have been nice to have some sort of reflective thing going on there. Also would have helped if it looked more like a visor. Like maybe he could have used a Hero Factory visor piece that they introduced in Brain Attack. That probably would have looked good there. Just place it over the blue and it will give the illusion that the visor's blue. And then one last little feature that I thought was really cool was the inclusion of a Nintendo 3DS quote-unquote latched onto his right thigh, so if he ever gets bored of catching bounties, he can go ahead and catch some Pokemon. I probably wouldn't have used studs for that bottom screen though. I think it probably would have looked better with another one of those transparent panels that he used for the top screen. All in all, this mock looks really neat. There's like 1 or 2 details that I probably would have done differently, and the proportions get very interesting around the waist area. Kinda looks like he has big hips. And while the addition of the chain is a pretty cool idea, I'm not sure how to feel about it being transparent orange. Maybe it should have been gray, or some other color that just blends better. And that's all I have to say on that, so I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about the build. Now right off the bat, I can't really say that there's anything wrong with the build of this mock that I can see. It looks really well built, it looks really sturdy. The main structure is all out solid. I mean, just look at this torso and the way it was built. It looks really compact and tightened. Though I will say, if anything that I can make at all that isn't so great about this mock's build are the system parts. It's not because the use of system is a bad thing, it's because, and I believe I mentioned this in another episode before, system parts can be a bit more fragile when used in a mock like this. Mainly the smaller parts that are typically used for detail. If you picked up this mock and you wanted to play with it or move some stuff around, you might accidentally break off one of the smaller system parts, like You might take off the little 3DS off of his leg, or you might break these parts over on his other leg, or you might break something on his torso. Well, it isn't really fair to me to declare this a flaw in the MOC, because the point in using system in the MOC was to add detailing and whatnot, not to actually compose the MOC structure and keep it standing. I know that's something I failed to acknowledge in a prior episode, but I'm acknowledging it now. Anyway, while it isn't a con, I feel that it is worth noting that if you're going to use system in your MOC, just make sure it holds in place fairly well. But aside from that, again, the MOC looks really solid. It's small, so it's a lot easier to make that judgment. There's not much I can really gun down when it comes to the build of this MOC, so let's go ahead and move on to the concept and ideas behind this MOC's creation. And so, the big idea behind this MOC is, as I mentioned earlier, it's supposed to be a bounty hunter that is well established in a post-apocalyptic setting. Think Mad Max, or at least that's what I thought of when I read this. So we take this into account when we look at this MOC, and then we know what qualities to look for. So he's a bounty hunter. That must mean he needs a weapon, he needs armor, he needs to look ready for battle. And he's in a post-apocalyptic world where there's no resources, no nothing. It's all about survival. There's no Walmart just lying around the corner with all your dairy product needs. No diet yogurt to come save your life. This MOC is supposed to look like a hardened soldier, and that appearance he does give off. He does look fairly well armored. He's just completely covered in armor. There's no trace of skin or anything, assuming that this is a human underneath this armor. And he's got this helmet with this interestingly shaped visor. He's got his shotgun. Yeah, he looks ready to take down some punks. And does he look fit for survival? I'd say so. He packed up his Pokemon, he's got a small backpack, he's got food, water, a little bag filled with supplies probably. Either that or he's just packing away Animal Crossing and Mario Kart or something in there, in case he ever gets bored of Pokemon too. My only thing is, this is some pretty advanced looking armor or equipment to be able to retain in a post-apocalyptic world. How was he able to afford this? Well, apparently the silver parts on this MOC signify metal armor that the dude made himself. I guess when the world has ended, you have a lot of time on your hands to just do these kind of things, so okay, I'll buy it. Especially since this MOC does this sort of scrappy appearance, like it was really made out of a box of scraps. Not in a bad way, I mean just look, the riot shield on his right arm, the little chain on his torso, all of these little details that I pointed out earlier make this concept all the more convincing, and all in all, I'd say that the builder's ideas were really well executed. And with that said, let's move on to the final scores. So in terms of appearance, I'll give this MOC a 4 out of 5. This MOC left me fairly impressed with the overall appearance, but as I mentioned earlier, there are a few features I probably would have done differently, but I liked how this turned out. The build of this MOC receives a 5 out of 5. I couldn't really find anything that looks like it could make this MOC crumble. The system parts were used really well in this MOC, and that's about that. And finally, the concepts and ideas behind this MOC receive a 4 out of 5. The builder, for the most part, successfully executed his idea of creating a post-apocalyptic bounty hunter. But the only reason why I say for the most part is because, for one thing, appearance and concepts kind of go hand in hand if you guys haven't already been able to tell. And I did mention that there are a couple of things that I probably would have done differently. And it's not because I'm being a jerk, it's because I think it would actually help this MOC look more like a bounty hunter. Like my suggestion with the visor, that would help it make it look more like a helmet instead of some sort of robot head that I kind of got the impression of when I first looked at it. Also, I kind of just noticed that there's like this little magenta thing in his hand. I don't think I like that. It's not that big of a deal, but I still don't really like it. Anyway, this MOC receives a final score of 13 out of 15. Probably one of the highest scores I've done yet. I really like this MOC. It's a small build, but with some pretty good ideas that were executed really well. Good job, Ghosty. you can haunt the boards anytime you want with your fantastic creations. And that goes for the rest of you too. If you would like a very high possibility that I would see your mock and even include it in a mock spotlight sometime, you should post your creation on our message boards at board.ttvpodcast.com under the LEGO creation section. I check that place all the time, so it's going to be very likely that I'll run into it if you post it there. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time.